Removing the rear bumper on an Impreza can be a relatively easy task. As with all body fittings on older vehicles, you must take care when removing bolts. I didn't take a lot of pictures of the various mounting points because most locations on the rear arches are no longer there. So here's an exploded diagram from the amazing people at opposedforces.com. This should help you locate all the fixing points. The number plate is illuminated on these models. The first task is to strip away the boot interior panels and disconnect the wiring. The plugs are very easy to disconnect and the rubber bungs should push through the body quite easily. Use a flat bladed screwdriver or even better, a nylon trim removal tool to push it through the hole. There are two lights, so make sure you get both of them. Underneath the car, the bumper sits on a support beam which in turn is bolted to the chassis rail. These bolts can be torqued quite high and are prone to rust, so take it steady, use a breaker bar and loads of penetrating fluid. Don't be afraid to walk away if it's not budging. It's very difficult to resolve if you snap a bolt or damage the captive nut in the support beam. There are 3 on the near side arch, and there are also 3 on the off side. In the middle of the bumper there are 2 10mm bolts that are also very prone to seizure and snapping. Do the usual and be patient. They will eventually remove. Remember, the smaller bolts need much less torque to snap. All the chassis bolts will be rusty as hell where exposed to road detritus, but the parts of the threads in the chassis are usually in factory fresh condition. Withdraw the bumper from the car by pulling the sides away from the arches and then pulling from the centre backwards until the arms of the support beam withdraw from the chassis rails. I did one side of the car at a time until the bumper was free of the arches. If you can get help, it's much easier, but it's not essential. This exposed the level of rust and grime on the rear panel. The offside is very similar. The towing eye is showing some serious rust and delamination, so it will be removed and treated as part of the restoration process. Undoing the very rusty bolts removes the towing eye and exposes the chassis rail. The lack of corrosion protection is very obvious compared to the area that was covered by the towing eye. Back to the near side bumper mounting point, you can see how bad the corrosion has become. Some hammerite generously applied 3 years ago has not prevented this, and I suspect it's just made it worse. This will need to be cut out and new metal welded in. The inner arch on the near side is showing signs of advanced corrosion as well. This is inevitable on an 18-year-old car in the UK that has been driven in the winter season when the roads are salted. More welding required. The arch gets worse as you move up the side. Again, this area was treated with hammerite about 3 years ago, but it's just not stood the test of time. Other than a few localised rust spots, the arches are not in a hideous condition, but they will need some welding repairs and some extensive rust prevention materials.